Hello everyone and welcome. This is Quest for You. I'm Janine. I come to you from Northern California, from a very foggy morning today. And I hope my voice reaches out into this world to all of you, more of you, every day, to help encourage you, push you a little bit, motivate you even more, to make your day just a little bit better today than it was yesterday. And maybe inspire you to strive for something that you've been wanting to do. That's my goal. And today on this cold and foggy California morning, we're going to talk about boundaries. And I want to start with a quote from Maya Angelou. I've learned that you shouldn't go through life with a catcher's mitt on both hands. You need to be able to throw something back. And I really like this quote for the topic of boundaries. Why do we cross boundaries? How do we even know when that happens? And more importantly, how can we see these invisible boundaries before we cross them? The topic of boundaries continues to fascinate me. Here we are on this journey, this quest back to ourselves, finding out who we are, tapping into this inner strength and wisdom of ours. And now we have to rein it all in by setting boundaries? Sounds almost contradictory, doesn't it? Not too long ago, in episode 145, we talked about healthy boundaries and what happens when we don't have them. Today I want to bring this topic up again, because it is so important. And I really want to zero in on you, the boundaries that you set for yourself. I want to help you practice setting boundaries. We are together on this journey, this quest, and everything you do starts with you. So, when we hear the word boundaries, we often think in terms of another person. But boundaries really start within. Yes, they are most often triggered by other people, but they are your internal boundaries. Boundaries uphold your values. They are there to safeguard you and what is important to you. A boundary is a self-honoring agreement with yourself that supports your well-being. So boundaries come from a place of self-love. When you buckle up your child in a car seat, your intention is not to confine his movements and freedom. Your intention is safety and protection. And personal boundaries work exactly the same way. They are the more outward, more explicit boundaries that you set in relationships with others, often in the form of mutual agreements on what is acceptable and what is not. Sometimes you may just discuss them openly with the other person and come to an agreement. For example, let's not go to sleep without clearing up any open issues. Let's greet each other more consciously when we come home from work. Other times, you simply establish them for yourself when it comes to a certain person or specific words or actions from that person, without necessarily telling that person directly. For example, I will not make any mean comments when my partner is late again for dinner. Or, I will not respond to emails that make me upset right away. I will take at least an hour and think about my response. All these are agreements you make with yourself, almost like a contract with yourself. And they all originate from within, with the goal to protect you, and often even the other person and your relationship with that person. To be successful with these more outward-focused boundaries, we really need to first be very clear on our internal boundaries. And we need to practice them. Many relationships fail due to either a lack of boundaries or the crossing of established boundaries. Boundaries are a critical key to have successful relationships. However, so many people don't realize this until the relationship struggles. In fact, that's when we often first learn about boundaries. When we see maybe a counselor or we talk to a friend about our problems, that's when we suddenly gain clarity on the areas where we overstep boundaries or allow the other person to do so. Crossing boundaries happens even without the conscious awareness of them. Meaning, You don't have to have your boundaries all clearly defined and written down. Many extraordinary relationships are successful without the partners ever having to speak about boundaries. Both partners are respectful and in tune with the other person to see when the line was crossed. They know to apologize, and they also know how to approach the situation differently next time. Boundaries are internal to us, and we don't always see or know about them. But we surely feel when they are approached, stepped on, and definitely when they've been crossed. And when this happens repeatedly, then it's time to take some action. There are multiple reasons that some of us need more help with boundaries than others. We will touch on a few of them. But overall, I believe we all recognize when our boundaries are crossed. However, we all decide to deal with it in different ways, all depending on the circumstances, our upbringing, and how we feel about ourselves. And since boundaries are so important to a trusting and loving relationship, and really any interaction with other human beings, it is vital that we learn to establish them and practice them. Because often we forget about them. We either fix the strained relationship or we separate. But after we've worked through what had to be done, we move on with life. Forgotten are the so important boundaries. Your tendency to get angry when your partner doesn't call you when he travels for work. Your willingness to change your plans last minute when your boss, friend, or partner needs you. Until the issue resurfaces again with the new partner. If you don't address the boundaries that you consistently cross, if you don't communicate them to your partner, or if you're not even clear yourself of what they are, then your relationships will experience resentment and anger, and ultimately will lack trust and honest communication. Boundaries are the key to healthy relationships. And the amazing thing about boundaries is that they have a dual effect. As you set your internal boundaries, you begin to grow as a human being, and your relationships also get better. Recall our discussions on high and low value behaviors in the last couple of episodes. People with low value usually don't have good boundaries. As you set your boundaries, you may lose some close friends that can't deal with the sudden limits you are placing on their behavior. But the good friends and partners will respect them, and it will enrich your relationships with these people. So setting boundaries is not a very comfortable thing to do. If it was, we all had more boundaries. But the fact that we avoid addressing them is a clear signal. It feels uncomfortable. So boundaries contribute to the emotional health of your relationships, and they also help you become more emotionally healthy. And that is why we need to practice them. Because you are your most important relationship. If you start working on your inner boundaries first, you'll begin to notice a difference in your self-esteem, your confidence, your emotional ability, and in your relationships with the people close to you. So I want to invite you today to look at your boundaries. This may involve reflecting on your past and your current relationships, the things that went wrong or that continue to be an issue. When I think of healthy boundaries, I think of 3 key elements that are the foundation. Number 1 is worth. The lower your self-worth, the fewer boundaries you tend to have. When your self-worth goes up, so will your boundaries. I'll cover the topic of self-worth in a future episode because it's so complex. But for today, know that your self-worth directly affects your boundaries. It comes from within. It's the value that you place on your life. If that value is low, your relationships also will not be valuable. Because how can you truly appreciate another person if you don't appreciate yourself? So learning to love is a skill, and it starts with you. If you don't have love and gratitude for your life and your accomplishments, then start here. Begin to build self-worth by learning to love your life. You start building self-worth by acknowledging your accomplishments and setting goals for the future. I know we all have something to be proud of, So highlight those blessings and focus on them every day. Maybe you even write them down, or you tell yourself something every morning when you wake up. The people in your life, professional achievements, and even the material things that you own. Start to measure your worth, and you will find things add up quickly. And then you ensure you continue filling up on accomplishments by striving for something new. Complete something that gives you a sense of success. Learn something and educate yourself. Exercise regularly and live a healthy lifestyle. Go on a trip and get to know a new place, or join a meetup group. Find a goal that motivates you and go after it. Because when you start seeing life as a blessing, more good things will come your way. Number 2, needs. We all have them. There's no need to deny our needs. Some people just have to have that extra pat on the back, more hugs, or they need more space. But know that a partner cannot fulfill all your needs, and you cannot fulfill your partner's needs. That is where many relationships go wrong. People entered them under the wrong terms, to meet a need, to fill holes, and to make someone happy. People with poor boundaries are either desperate to fill someone else's needs, a low-value person typically, or they expect the other person to fill their needs, also a low-value person. The missing piece here is responsibility. Healthy boundaries means you take responsibility for your own actions and emotions, while not taking responsibility for the actions and emotions of others, or expecting from them to take care of yours. So work on meeting your own needs. They are your responsibility, relationship or not. So many people are amazing at pursuing their goals when they're single. They have amazing friendships, they have fun and adventure in their life, goals and hobbies that they're pursuing. But as soon as a partner enters their life, you don't ever hear from them or see them again. Are you a person that has a ton of interests and passions and ideas, but as soon as you have that relationship, you drop everything and make your partner your main focus? If so, then know that you are lowering your boundaries, because your needs for the things that you love to do will not be filled by the relationship or your partner alone. Sure, you may have a lot in common, and you can share your interests, but most couples are not so similar in all of their interests, and it's also important to have some things that are your own. So be clear about your needs and practice also speaking about them. Clear communication is the problem in so many relationships. We expect the other person to guess and anticipate our needs. That can't work if they don't know. This is part of taking responsibility for the relationship. Be honest with your partner, because once you speak about your needs, then both of you can work together to find a way that meets your needs without compromising the health of the relationship. And 3, values. When you start seeing life as a blessing and you are clear about your needs, then you can create a clear vision about the relationship you want. Many people stop with self-worth. If the person just loves them a little, then they feel worthy and they think they found the right person. More people stop with needs. As long as the person meets their needs, they're happy. The right relationship should be based on your values. You should know what is important to you in life and in a relationship. When I read people's profiles on dating apps, I always look for those 3 things: worth, needs, and value. And I'm thinking maybe one day I'll make an episode about dating app profiles. There's so much I want to say. But here is often what I see, and I promise I'll keep it short. Some profiles are written in the negative. These people just complain about stuff, that nobody writes to them and that this app sucks and so on. And others demand things. Don't write me if you're just saying hi. Negative messages and things you don't want, to me, are a sign of low self-worth. You don't think highly enough of yourself to trust that the other person has the behaviors that you're seeking. Then there are those profiles that only communicate someone's needs. They want someone who likes beer, camping, and is emotionally stable. Clearly, these things are important to them to find in a partner. But does meeting these needs guarantee a healthy relationship? Don't get me wrong. It's good to know what you want from a partner or a friend, but that's not enough. I always look for values. What does this person love, appreciate, and will most likely foster in a relationship? These are the things such as openness, respect, creativity, and honesty. I look for integrity. What does the person do that shows me what they value? An example could be that they're volunteering, they're learning new skills, they have a wide variety of interests, they have traveled the world, and so on. It is in the doing that you can see what the person truly values. And being clear on your values is very important. If your relationship is based on shared values, you are on the right track to success. Because when you both value honesty, for example, it doesn't matter if you disagree with something your partner says. You can both speak about it and work it out. I really like this quote from Brené Brown. Daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves even when we risk disappointing others. Boundaries require courage, but with a clear understanding about your worth, your needs, and your values, you'll have the courage to say no. You'll be willing to take a stand for yourself, and you will be less likely to break your agreements with yourself. This builds integrity and credibility within yourself and with the people around you, and it raises your self-esteem. So I encourage you to practice setting boundaries by diving into these 3 areas. We all have some work we need to do, and we all need to practice our boundaries. Much love. Until next time.